everybody, thanks for coming out. We'll get started. Today is May 6, 2025, time 6 p.m. I call to order this regular scheduled meeting of the Oconee County Council. We will begin with a moment of silence. Mr. Root, would you pray for us, please?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Well, dearest Father, our Creator, our God, Sustainer of our lives, we are grateful. Hopefully we are grateful for all the things that you've given us, the gifts, but I know that we neglect that. So I pray that you'd give us hearts that are appreciative of your many gifts, of our neighbors, of our opportunities, including an opportunity tonight. And also thank you for our law enforcement personnel that we are blessed by. May they be blessed, especially for the work they do. May you guide them, keep them safe, and guide council this evening so they can be a blessing to this county. In your name I pray. Amen.
Mr. Phil Shirley, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
County Attorney comments, Mr. Root.
I have none, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I have none, thank you. Administrator comments, Ms. Brock.
I don't have any other this evening, sir. Thank you.
Other, thank you, Ms. Brock. All right, now we move to approval of the consent agenda. Is there any items anyone wish to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, will someone make a motion to approve?
Make a motion. Second.
Motion second. All right, all in favor? Now we have Proclamation 2025-05, a proclamation for Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas the Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas the members of the law enforcement agencies of Oconee County play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of our community. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, sacrifices of their law enforcement officers, and the law enforcement officers recognize their duty to serve the people of this community by protecting them against violence and disorder. And whereas the law enforcement officers of Oconee County unceasingly provide a vital public service, now therefore, we, the Oconee County Council, in recognition of Peace Officers Memorial Day, would like to honor the memory of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty, to offer appreciation to the retired officers for their service to the law enforcement profession, and to honor those law enforcement officers presently serving their community. Need a motion? Motion? Second. All in favor? Aye.
How many of you are on?
You're in the middle.
Yours. Curious what this costs the taxpayers.
Come on up here, Tim.
Woo. Mr. James, can you come in just a tiny bit? Mr. Elliott, step in just a little bit. I think we got you.
Thank you.
So thank you for what all.
Appreciate you. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. Really do. All of y'all.
Okay, now we have a presentation and EMS update by Mr. Hunter Cohn and the staff from Prisma Health.
Good evening, gentlemen, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to give you an update on EMS here in Oconee County. As you know, EMS is operated by Prisma Health, and we have a long history of running EMS with some support from the county, of course. And we really appreciate over the past few years your recognition of EMS as an essential public service and your support for increasing funding for EMS. EMS in most communities is fully funded publicly. In this county, we have a great partnership where Prisma Health does fund over half the cost of delivering EMS, operational costs, as well as all the capital costs for EMS. But because of the investment that you are making, we do want to make sure we keep you updated on how those services are going. So we appreciate the support, the recognition of the importance of EMS as an essential public service, and we just want to give you an update. For those who aren't familiar with how it works, as I said, Aaron Dix is going to come up and tell you about the details of what we deliver. But for many, many years, it's a unique thing across all of South Carolina. Oconee Memorial Hospital originally, now Prisma Health, simply just delivered EMS services for the people of Oconee County. That's not normal, as I think all of you know. In every other county in the state, it's a publicly funded service. So we are proud to be able to deliver that. We deliver a great service that Aaron's going to tell you about. We do want to expand as the county grows. Particularly the current expansion that we're looking at is into the Corinth-Shiloh area and Salem to expand coverage in those areas. We've talked to the chairman, we've talked to Vice Chairman Mize and to the county administrator about those plans and what that would take. And we'll rely on them to share that with you. Today, we just want to give you an update on the service that we provide. So thank you. Aaron?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to start with a quick story, which happened a little while ago. A small child had a horrible accident in their front yard. And the injury was so severe, it lacerated, it cut open one of the largest veins in your body. And this child was dying in front of her family, in her yard, in rural South Carolina. Our first paramedic got on scene 7 minutes after her mom called. 7 minutes. 13 minutes after the 911 call, this child was getting their first liter of blood in the yard. In addition, this child had a breathing tube placed, multiple medications given, put on a helicopter, brought to a pediatric trauma surgeon. This child's heart stopped during surgery. They were able to repair the vessel, provide enough blood to restart their heart. After multiple surgeries, this child went back to their family 11 days after this accident. At the time of that call, Prisma Health was one of 10 agencies in the country able to give a blood transfusion, and the only one in South Carolina. The care that we provide in rural South Carolina is world-class. And in order to say that, we want to prove it. So that's what we've done over the past several years. What does it get pointed
You
at?
gotta make your eyebrows go right.
There we go. So what we set off to do is say if there is a state or a national standard, we're going to prove to you that we exceed it. So one of the things that we did was we became accredited as an EMS agency. One of 180 in the nation and only 2 in South Carolina. It was a 3-year process. We then accredited our dispatch center. We're what's called a secondary primary service answering center. When you call 911 in Oconee, it goes to the sheriff's office. When it's deemed a medical emergency, it's then transferred to our central dispatch system where you get emergency medical dispatch. We're also the only dispatchers in South Carolina that use simulation-based training to provide telephone-assisted CPR. We got that program nationally accredited. South Carolina then awarded us Large System of the Year in 2022. Kent Witten, the director in Oconee, was given and awarded EMS Director of the Year for South Carolina this year. We then were the first in South Carolina to become pediatric ALS ready, which means that we can treat pediatric patients. We're still one of less than 10 in the state that have done that. Our STEMI stroke and cardiac arrest care has earned us Mission Lifeline Gold, which is the highest standard in the nation. And we were the first in the state, like I said, to provide blood and buprenorphine. And that's in rural South Carolina. And the case that we talked about got published nationally, and I speak nationally on that case. Multiple people from very large metropolitan areas, including NYFD, have come up to me and told me they would not have been able to recreate that at that time. They feel like today, years later, they have the technology. So we are cutting edge, world-class care in Oconee, and we're proving it. So Prisma Health Ambulance Service is the largest EMS service in South Carolina, not the busiest. We're big. 35 ambulances, 5 quick response vehicles from here all the way to Sumter, but specific to Oconee. And we're going to respond to 70,000 calls this year, and we're going to transport about 50,000. And we do everything from 911 to the work of the hospital to critical care, which means if you have an ICU patient on a ventilator and multiple drips, we are all nationally certified to move those patients safely. We do a lot of event medicine, and we do a lot of disaster response. We supported multiple counties during Hurricane Helene, and we deployed to Florida to support Hurricane Milton. So specific to Oconee, we know we've been doing this since 1966, we believe, because we have the pictures and the bill of sale of the ambulance. We operate today 10 ground ambulances, and 3 of them are basic life support, which we use for the hospital. We're going to answer 17,000 911 calls in Oconee, and then we have 2 supervisors with blood in the county, and we provide emergency medical dispatch. So if you can see what we've gone from a Cadillac hearse to now large ambulances, which are a lot safer. So what I also wanted to prove, right, is when your heart stops in the nation, you have an 8% chance of going home. That's it. 92% of the people in the United States whose heart stops outside of the hospital die. So we report to a national, all of our cardiac arrest data goes to a national database. So we can benchmark ourselves against the nation. And in every single category, we exceed the national standard. If you go into cardiac arrest and your heart stops and somebody is willing to do CPR, 50% of the time you will go home in rural Oconee County, which is not just the strength of your EMS system, but the strength of your sheriff's department, your rescue squads, and your fire departments, because that is a continuum of care. And then, of course, the health system and how we manage both your heart care and your stroke care after that cardiac arrest. I still haven't figured out what I'm supposed to point to, and we're almost done, right? So the additional community benefit, which many of you support, including Ms. Brock, is Shop with a Hero. We help raise $30,000 a year for this program. It's probably one of the most impactful programs. High school football games, we provide EMS support for free. We provide medical direction for free to Oconee County Emergency Services, Kiwi, and Walhalla. And then we have the largest community paramedic program in the state. And all of that community paramedic work where we're in the home, improving health, knocking down barriers to care, we do that free. No cost to the patient. Gets referred into our program. We see you until we feel like you are now safe to move on without the help of a community paramedic. And all of that is part of this EMS system. And just to give you kind of an idea, the inflationary cost, these costs are all accurate in the sense of we think this is what it's going to be once all of the tariffs and everything is in place, right? So this is what the manufacturers are telling us. If we buy an ambulance today, it's $350,000 for one ambulance. 7 years worth of life out of that. Typically for frontline, we don't want to go over 5 because of the amount of mileage. The cardiac monitors are $40,000 a piece. Our blood program for Oconee is $40,000. We use Lucas CPR devices because we want to provide continuous high-quality chest compressions. Those are just shy of $20,000. And then the stretcher loading system and the stretcher is another $60,000. So we spent the money, Prisma Health, in ensuring that the best equipment is here, not only for our team members to protect them, but to protect you. It's much safer to be in our ambulances with the power load system and the stretcher that we buy than to not have them. So real quick, these are your ambulances. We have a 24-hour ambulance in Westminster, Walhalla, and then we provide 3 in Seneca. We have 12-hour trucks in Oakway, Corn Shiloh, and Kiwiki, and then our 2 supervisors. Our supervisor primary is out of Seneca, but then we have one 12 hours in Picket Post and then moves to Kiwi to cover the night shift. And then you can just see the difference. The more red you get, the busier it is. So last year, we ran 11,000 calls. 2 years ago, it was 11,000 calls. Last year, it was 16,588. And you can see where the concentration of those calls are. Where we used to be able to have a lot of ambulances stationed where the red is, you can see how the red has just covered more of the county, which just makes it more difficult for us from a response perspective. That's it. Any questions we can ask? Answer?
I've got a statement to make. So a couple of years ago, I had the unfortunate situation of having to ride the back of one. And when they came into the house, they treated me before they took me to the hospital. And they were so safety conscious. I was in the middle cooking hamburgers out of the grill. And looked at my wife and said, please, before you come to the hospital, cut that gas grill off. And I sure appreciate that because we were in a panic and my house would have burned down. But I told her this a couple years ago here, but I will tell you, it's kind of bumpy in that back of that ambulance.
Yes, sir.
But it's the roads, not y'all.
Yeah. So what's interesting is the fire trucks are built from scratch. Most of them, right? You can buy a commercial grade. Ambulances are dump truck chassis. They have never developed. So you're right. That ambulance box is sitting on a dump truck chassis because of its weight. It's stiff. And yeah, we do a survey. So everybody who uses Prisma Health Ambulance Service gets a survey because we want to do better. We fully recognize that we have room for improvement. So we have rigorous quality assurance on the clinical side. But then we send our patients a survey and say, did we do well? And I could tell you over and over and over again, the number one complaint is the ride of the ambulance, and it is.
Roads.
It is the roads. But thank you. I'm glad we were able to meet your expectations.
Yes, sir. I'd like to ask you a question. Are you affiliated with, or do y'all have an air ambulance service?
Mm-hmm. We have a contract with Air Methods to provide 3 helicopters. What can I answer specifically?
Well, before it, what kind of price are we talking about?
Okay, great. So 2 years ago, the federal government passed a law called the No Surprise Billing Act, which was aimed at curbing the cost of it using an air medical service. So the large bundle bills, which patients used to see on 60 Minutes or any of those news shows, they can't do that anymore. Since signing the contract with Air Methods, I have not had one complaint or concern about the cost of using a helicopter. None. And trust me, I get a lot of complaints. Not once has anybody reached out to me and had a problem with the cost of it. It's part of the law that requires them, the helicopter company, to go in network with the insurance company and to handle that bill. And if the patient is only responsible for what their health insurance out of pocket is. It's not this $30,000 bill. So the old days of those are over. There is a commitment from us. I can only handle the ones that say Prisma Health on them, right? And we do not own or operate them. That is a contractual agreement with a private service. There is no money that exchanges hands. It's just we wanted to control the quality that was in the back of that helicopter, if we were going to call it. So by branding them, we provide the medical director. So our medical director and our protocols are what those people use, but there's no money that exchanges hands between that helicopter and Prisma Health. But if anybody has a problem, we will be more than happy to work with them, their insurance company, and the helicopter, because it is an hour to an hour and 15 minutes to Greenville. Greenville Memorial is the only hospital in the upstate that can do certain things. Badly injured kids, bad strokes, certain cardiac surgeries, they're the only ones. Nobody else can do them. So what we want to do is those are time sensitive. We need to get them there, right? So I don't want cost to be a barrier. But those days are over, at least for the ones that I can speak for, right? We have a lot of helicopters around us. There's 5 that routinely come in. 2 of them can say Prisma Health on them, and 2 of them do not, right? But what we try to do is send the closest helicopter, because once again, there's no money that exchanges hands. So when we look at the call, we have geo-fenced in our CAD, what is the closest helicopter? And if that's out, we then send that backup helicopter. Now, and sometimes we're faster than the helicopter, right? If we have calls where in Seneca, where there was a shooting, from the time we got the call to the time we got them to Memorial was 45 minutes. That's faster than if we had called for a helicopter. The helicopters are good for if the patient is entrapped, we have multiple patients, or we're out of that Seneca region, right? If you're near the 85 or the 123 corridor, typically we can move fast enough where ground kind of works. But of course, that's also different at 4 in the morning than 4 in the afternoon. You guys go through Clemson at 4 in the afternoon, even lights and sirens, you're looking at an hour and 15 minutes, right? So,
Another question. Let's say you had a burn, and you had to get them to Charleston. Would you helicopter them?
yes, sir, but not Charleston. They're going to go to Augusta.
Okay.
Augusta is the accredited burn center. That's not anything against MUSC. MUSC is a wonderful hospital and they have a burn center. Their burn center is not accredited. From a Prisma Health perspective, we wanted to send them to an accredited burn center so they get flown directly to Augusta. Augusta did not used to be a trauma center, so if it was like a car accident plus a burn, they had to go to Greenville Memorial first to get stabilized from a trauma perspective and then get flown again to Augusta, but that has since changed. So as long as they meet certain criteria and the weather is good, then we're gonna fly them directly to Augusta. If not, they will typically end up at Coney Memorial or Greenville Memorial for stabilization, and then we'll take them by ground to Augusta if the weather doesn't allow us. The trip to Augusta by ground from here is between 2 to 2.5 hours. And we don't wanna do that unless the airway is secure, they're getting fluid, and they've been stabilized. I don't know if that was too much. We get a lot of fires here, a lot of burns.
That's right. I don't think you finished, but you have been very impressive to me. Thank you.
We love this. We love this community. The people who work here are invested. I don't live in Oconee, but I look forward to every Friday where I try to come out here and run calls. It's personal to us. And if we don't do what we should do, I want someone to tell us. Right. So I apologize if that went over. Okay.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation and all the details of what you do and the quality of care. We're really fortunate in a rural community to have that quality of care available. And thank you for what y'all do.
We're proud to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next we have public comment session. As a reminder, it's limited to 5 minutes per person. I'll set my phone up to run a timer. At the 4-minute mark, I'll hold you up a yellow warning sign. At 5 minutes, a red stop sign. We ask that you please keep the comments on topic of county business, and we will, if you've not been here before, it's not interactive. Y'all will take comments, and there's a council member comment session following this.
Miss Victoria Landon.
Hello, my name is Victoria Landon, and I'm a resident of Salem, South Carolina. I thank you all for allowing me to submit my comments this evening. I'm here on behalf of myself and CAFE, Citizens Advocating for Education, Oconee. I'm asking you to consider increased funding for our Oconee County library system. I speak for many Oconee County citizens in saying that a strong library system in our community is crucial to ensure that everyone has the tools they need to learn, connect, and thrive. This is especially true of our youngest children. Currently, Oconee County Library lacks a youth services librarian. As you know, the position has been posted for several months and is still vacant. One reason for this is likely the low starting salary of $47,645 plus benefits. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median salary for public librarians in South Carolina in 2024 was over $56,000. In addition, County Health Rankings and Roadmaps calculates that a living wage in Oconee County for one adult with 2 children is $76,960 per year. Even with benefits factored in, the posted salary for the youth services position is hardly attractive enough to bring qualified top candidates to this part of the state. A highly qualified youth services librarian is what the children and families of Oconee County need and deserve to support early literacy and sustained educational achievement. I serve as a volunteer for Baby Read, which is an Oconee County-based nonprofit dedicated to helping increase pre-reading literacy of children from 0 to age 3. Extensive research shows that young children with access to physical books at home are 2 times as likely to meet literacy standards as compared to those without that access. As a former school librarian with a master's degree in library science, I am aware of what it takes to develop a library program for children. We need a qualified professional who can manage the complex tasks of developing programs, building appropriate library collections, and devising outreach strategies throughout our entire county to provide this access to our families. Books are costly and a luxury for many of our families. In 2023, 20% of the children in Oconee were living in poverty, and a full 77% of our children in public schools were eligible for free or reduced lunch. These families don't have money to buy many books. Our libraries are needed to help fill this literacy gap, especially at the earliest ages for children who don't have access to school-based libraries. Raising early literacy rates in our county will be a big step toward ultimately increasing the graduation rate for Oconee County schools, where currently 100 of every 600 students leaves high school without a diploma. In addition to offering the low pay for professional librarians, the part-time positions at the library are among the lowest, if not the lowest paid positions across the county. Our library physical facilities are also in need of improvements. As a volunteer with Baby Read, I meet with the family at the Seneca Library twice a month. There is no good space in that building for me, the mother, and her 2, sometimes 3 children to have our reading sessions. The size of the Seneca branch and the facilities it offers are highly inadequate for the population it now must serve. I have also been made aware that the Westminster branch building is in need of substantial improvements beyond mere cosmetic fixes to adequately meet the needs of the area it serves. To conclude, I and many that I speak for love Oconee County and want to see our public libraries have the resources to fulfill their vision and do the amazing things that bring the richest quality of life to all in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee Hill.
Good evening. Lee Hill. I live just off Leroy Road. I was here last month, and to avoid being labeled as the curmudgeon that stands out on his front porch and says, "Get off my lawn" to the kids, I'm not the only one. Marty Marcingill was gonna be here tonight. He's got an AC unit out and is working on that. Chris Worley of Jackal fame, he is up under his mom's house tonight, working on plumbing. Jen Worley, his wife, is entertaining her parents because their kid's graduating from Clemson University this week. Donna Alford, another one of our neighbors, is in her 70s and wasn't feeling well enough to come up here tonight. And Coach Stanley Leroy, which I hope most of y'all know, he's down at Seneca High School taking pictures for the Journal. But what all of us wanted to come and talk to you about is these fraternity houses. It happened again. We had a dialogue with Crenshaw and a lot of back and forth with emails, good exchange. But on Friday, April 4th, at 111 Dubois Circle, that's the SAE house right off of Old Clemson Highway. And as the crow flies, that's 1.4 miles from my house. Now, the existing codes say that 70 decibels is a violation and it's to be read at the property line. I live 1.4 miles, there's hills, trees, and all kinds of obstacles between us, and I could sing right along at my front door to this stuff. We started calling around 8:30 and was told by the deputies on call that the quiet time starts at 11 p.m. That is incorrect. I don't know where to go. I mean, they're going to quiet down because they're all going out for school, and then right back in the fall, it's going to start up again. And I guess I'm going to have to go door to door and knock. But as you can see, and you all are well aware because your own personal lives, people are busy. And I don't know where we get the feedback from you guys. I don't know who should be chairing this because I've got Dean Poole at Clemson University calling me, and asking for input and asking to meet. I don't think that should be my role. I'll participate, I'll be on a board, I'll be on a committee, but I shouldn't be the one standing up and shaking my fist. Last time, Mr. Elliott, you said we need to put, I believe it was you that says we need to push Pickens County's problems back into Pickens County. Okay, I want some help. I want to know what's been done since that last meeting. I want to understand why our deputies do not understand the codes. And I want to understand because Dean Poole begged me. She said, has there been a citation written? Has there been a ticket issued? And the answer is no. And these are two different events at two different properties, and it's only going to continue. We are not doing ourselves and the community that's living around these houses any favors by not writing these kids up. She's begging us to give her something that she can take to these national fraternities and put them on probation. And we're not doing it from our side. And we need to wake up and start doing it because I didn't move to Oconee County to live next to a fraternity house. In fact, I moved out of Clemson and bought the property that I live on because I wanted away from that mess. Dean Poole gave me 2 rules that they have. She sent me the bylaws. I think I've sent it to some of y'all. And this is crazy, and this is what everybody needs to be raising their hand and asking. She says, well, did you see them mass distributing alcohol? Because that's a violation. I said, well, ma'am, there's about 300 bags of ice, plastic on my property where it blew across, where they were filling up those stainless steel animal feed salts and pulling beers out of it. She said, did you get a picture? Well, right there. The university is wiping their hands of it, in fact, that they're not able to enforce their own rules. And we need to be able to stand up and say, that's not right. And it shouldn't be Joe Q, public citizen me. It should be somebody with an authority and a voice saying, guys, y'all need to police your own. And if you're going to allow them to have public housing, then you need to have somebody that comes out and monitors when they have these parties. Because they're registering the parties with Oconee County. I don't know if they're doing it with the university. The second thing is they are required when they have a big party to have professional security on site. At the last party, they had Clemson football players. That's not a professional security. So I want to know what's happened since the last meeting. Who's talked to Dean Poole from the county? What the plan is? Is there a committee? Is there a group? What are we going to do? Because it's extremely frustrating. And it's only going to get worse because it's monetized now. And I told you that at the last meeting. There's an LLC And the gentleman that owns it has figured out that he can make more money buying these old rundown houses and turning them over and flipping them to fraternity houses without having to fix them up. The amount of rent that they're generating is way more than the property should be able to generate. There's 4 houses now in Oconee County. There's 20 plus fraternities. Do the math. He's out there looking for another one because we're letting him. I want some help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Mr. Michael Grant.
May I approach with the handouts?
So one for everyone?
Yes. Thank y'all for letting me speak. My name is Michael Grant. I would like to bring something to the council's attention. I have been attending some of the planning commission meetings. Mike Johnson, the chairman of the planning commission, submitted a request to the South Carolina Ethics Commission, and he said they replied that he has no conflict. That's just not true. What he received from the Ethics Commission is an informal opinion that is not binding on the Ethics Commission. It is entirely dependent of the truthfulness. It is entirely dependent of the truthfulness of the information he provided to them. While they said realtors may be a large class exception that would still be allowed to vote on matters, they also made it clear due to his relationship with a developer, he should exercise caution, especially if there is even an appearance of a conflict of interest. He should recuse himself. On the last page, I'll read. However, despite staff's ultimate conclusion, you were urged to carefully consider the preamble to the Ethics Act, which provides, whereas one of the most important functions of any law aimed at making public servants more accountable is that of complete and effective disclosure. Since many public servants serve on a part-time basis, it is inevitable that conflicts of interest and appearance of impropriety will occur. Often these conflicts are unintentional and slight, but at every turn, those who represent the people of this state must be certain that it is the interest of the people and not their own that are being served. Public servants should be prepared to remove themselves immediately from a decision, vote, or process that even appears to be a conflict of interest. Thank y'all for letting me speak. Thank y'all.
Mr. Jason Doyle.
May I ask this to be put on record?
Usually if it's submitted, it is.
Thank you.
Good evening, all. I am again addressing the corruption of the Oconee County Sheriff's Department. I'm going to stick to an easier story this time, one that perhaps David Root knows quite well, and it's the story of David Dawkins. David Dawkins was arrested for selling drugs in Oconee County. And when he was arrested, they forfeited his property, and they forfeited his assets, his guns, his speaker systems, his home entertainment system, you name it. They forfeited everything of value the man owned. Well, he died before his trial. So it turns out, independent of whether David Dawkins was guilty or not, the forfeited items were needed to be returned by law. David Dawkins has been dead for 3.5 years now, and the Oconee County Sheriff's Department has returned nothing. And you know why that is. Of course, anyone who grew up in Oconee County, because I didn't, but I talk to people, the same people that tell me when I pursue these crooked cops and I pursue that Mike Crenshaw is a criminal and I pursue the past crimes of the previous sheriff, James Singleton, they tell me that I'm going to end up dead, that they'll put me in a well or they'll feed me to hogs. It's said to me many times, I don't care. I'd like them to kill me if they're coming for me. David Dawkins' items were supposed to be returned. The reason they weren't returned is because they were distributed like the stolen items they were. The sheriff's officers took them home, just like in the old Singleton days. This is standard procedure for Oconee County. This is not a complicated story. This is cut and dry. David Dawkins' items need to be returned to his daughter, Leslie Dawkins, who's the rightful owner of them, and they should have been returned years ago, and they will never return them, and they will fight at the end. Officer Orr, Deputy Orr, even one time told Leslie that there's a document that David Dawkins signed saying those items were never his in the first place. That's a lie, and they could never produce that document. We have a major problem with corruption in Oconee County, and it starts with the Oconee County Sheriff's Department. Leslie Dawkins, David Dawkins has been served multiple papers since he died. Mr. Root can attest to that. I mean, this man makes $250,000 a year off the county, and he works in a private practice. He better be competent enough to understand that David Dawkins has been served multiple papers since his death. It's illegal. These people need to go to jail. But guess what? They won't. This is Oconee County. This is what we do. Perhaps what we do best. You hold all those officers up here. Those officers need to be on the street. They need to be working. If they're on duty, they don't need to be at council meetings, except for the one here who's supposed to be protecting us. This county has a history of corruption that needs to be addressed. Look at the 2012 election, Mike Crenshaw. Mike Crenshaw ran for that election with Terry Wilson, James Bartee, and Donnie Fricks, right? Terry Wilson got more or less disbarred because he was under investigation for fraud. No one wanted to vote for a fraudster. Well, let's look at what happened to Donnie Fricks. Well, there was an informant for the Oconee County Sheriff's Department, Nick Blackwell, a well-known informant for the Oconee County Sheriff's Department. And Nick Blackwell got in an argument with Fricks, and Nick Blackwell claims Fricks assaulted him. Makes major news. Now Fricks can't win the election. Well, that's one gone. Then what do? They go after James Bartee with the same guy. Nick Blackwell goes after James Bartee, gets James Bartee convicted of attempting to kidnap a judge for $175. Give me a break. And he spends 2 years in prison. Look at Mr. Crow, Daniel Crow, and what happened to him, and how when Judge Danny Singleton was a police officer, he buried all kinds of crimes on behalf of his friends. And you know what I've learned about this? Like many of the Oconee County officers have said, I know nothing about it. I know nothing about it. You know why they don't know anything about it? Because they don't want to know anything about it. If I committed a crime, they'd be at my house investigating me. But when other officers commit a crime, they don't want to know about it and they don't care. And that is the history of Oconee County, and you guys are the apathetic ones. You guys are here to defend the citizens. Mike Crenshaw's crooked. I get it. He's going for the money. I don't know what he does with his time. He was having an affair with his wife and cheating his time clock and got fired from the Oconee County Sheriff's Department, only be elected sheriff. This is Oconee County. This is what we stand for. This is our reputation. Please fix it. You pray. Please fix it, sir. You have the knowledge. You could fix this if you chose to, with a little bit of courage and possibly some consequences.
5 minutes.
I get it. I'll give it to you, but I'm not happy.
Ms. Kim Alexander.
Good evening, council. Thanks for letting me speak. I know that we have the first reading of our budget, and I understand that you guys got a letter that was from our advisory board that I wrote asking for an additional person to be housed in Soil and Water, and I know the Soil and Water Commission has also approached y'all about that. We understand that there are going to be no new positions, and I understand that. And first of all, thank you for being mindful and being of how you spend the taxpayers' dollars and being mindful of where the money needs to go. I would like to ask you to consider, due to the workload of Soil and Water and what Mark Fisher does, to see if there is a way to possibly move a position. If there's a position that is not filled and is not going to be filled, if you could look at somehow giving a part-time position, splitting a position in another department, but any help in that area would be great. I think we saw the need and why this is so important, with Soil and Water. They do oversee our watershed, they oversee the ponds that we have. There is a lot of work that goes on in that department for the farmers. There's a lot of work that goes on in that department as they work hand in hand with USDA, Farm Services, and NRCS. Those programs are going to be critical, especially after Helene. I know there's a lot of farms that are still trying to get back on their feet and cleaned up, so that's part of NRCS. There is a lot of things where they need farm services, and there's new farmers that we have that want to get numbers, and that's not part of Soil and Water, but having someone that can help them and facilitate getting them to USDA. I know there's going to be major changes within that office because they've had some retirees. And so hopefully we can get Oconee's office open back up 2 days a week. I know that can help some with workload, but there is a need to have someone that can help Mr. Fisher in that department. And if you guys could, and I'm willing to help in any way that I can to see what we need. But if there's just maybe a way to look at the budget, not asking you to add more money, just asking you if we can see how we can facilitate to get someone to help. Thank you for your time and thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Ms. Kim.
That's all this evening.
That's all, thank you. All right, now we move to council member comments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I think last time when we talked about fraternity houses, we talked about looking at what the city of Clemson, ordinance they put in place. So I'd like to make a motion that council directs Ms. Brock and her staff to look into it further and come back to us with a recommendation on what kind of ordinance or restrictions we could put in to help the situation out.
Before that motion is made, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Elliott, I've done that without the motion being made, I'm sorry. I should have let you know that I had made that contact. As you all know, there's plenty of former county employees that work at the city of Clemson, so we have almost direct access through their planning and codes office. The city of Clemson's model is they have occupancy standards. It's inside city limits, so if a structure has 3 bedrooms, there's no more than 8 people allowed in the structure, period. If the structure has 4 bedrooms, there's no more than 10 people allowed. It's occupancy, it's not outdoor use of any sort of. They had a problem in the past inside city limits for frat parties, but as the city has infilled and grown, there's nowhere for frat parties to happen inside city limits to where it would be a clear violation and a neighbor issue. There aren't a whole lot of issues that they have, which is how probably it ended up on our side of the Seneca River, Lake Hartwell. Occupancy standards was the #1 answer from the city of Clemson. Pickens County had a similar complaint several months ago. I believe we are the hot spot. Again, I believe that adding teeth into the noise ordinance, which Mr. Mice has already approved to be put on his agenda for the next law enforcement committee meeting. And just for the record, I'll go ahead and state that date. The city of Clemson, their teeth is in the use of the building, not the outdoor space. The next law enforcement committee meeting is May 20th, which will be 2 weeks from tonight.
We regulate group homes. Does this not fall under a group home type?
If they're not residing there, no. A frat party is not a residence.
Then would it not be like a commercial enterprise if it's just for a party house?
Well, the commercial enterprise is the person who owns the home. And I think Mr. Root might have a comment.
I don't
Or I
have
can
anything
throw you
in
under
this.
the bus if you like, and just let me know.
I usually do. Comment
I just
list.
meant by the equal protection of law, I'm not sure we could separate out fraternities from group homes, or I don't know if there's an equal protection factor there.
No, probably not. We could, they're in a different class.
Okay.
But you point to, a real issue with who lives there, who owns it, and who just comes there for events. And I think the noise ordinance, that was one of the reasons it was put in place back when, was fraternity parties. Implemented right, it would show a lot of that.
When it's not being
Fund down.
enforced. And have they applied for any permits? You can apply for a permit to not have to abide for a particular event for the noise ordinance. Have they applied for any permits?
So their permit that I believe Mr. Hill is talking about is a registration. It's not a permit. It's a registration through the sheriff's office. So I, Amanda Brock, am gonna have a frat party Friday night. because law enforcement needs to know if there's a sober person there, who the sober person point of contact is. And that registration process is not a permit. The noise ordinance permit is administered through my office. The registration component is handled through the sheriff's office.
But we can pass all the ordinances if we want, if it's not enforced, it doesn't do any good. So,
I don't know if that's a policy issue, rather a response issue.
yeah.
So if we notify, the sheriff's office is notified, or somebody's notified, there's gonna be a frat party, right? You know there's underage drinking,
Yes, sir?
okay?
Or at least I imagine so.
Why don't we do a check on that? You do enough of that, it's gonna run them off.
But I can't answer that, sir, I'm not the sheriff.
I
And
think
I
the-
really don't wanna be the sheriff.
It sounds like we need to strengthen that registration process.
That registration process is also sheriff's office policy. So that
That's-
can be, if you don't mind, I'll reach out to the sheriff and
Let's,
Captain
let's
Dixon to see.
reach out to Sheriff
We can
Crenshaw.
get them on the May 20th agenda for discussion. I
Right.
don't even know what that registration process is, honestly.
And we can make this a priority for that meeting, and then anything else we can pick up in a special meeting. Cause I know we got other stuff already on there. Do we? So it sounds like they have rules they're supposed to follow, that the university will enforce, but we have no evidence that they're breaking those rules.
Yes.
And enforcing the noise ordinance is the first way to get in there to ensure that they're following
Correct.
their policy.
And the noise ordinance, if I may say so, to council and the public, it's a good guiding document. It just has to be enforced. And I'm most certainly not throwing anybody at the sheriff's office under the bus, but Mr. Hill and I have had a pretty lengthy conversation after the first frat party. And I believe that there's room for improvement on our side.
We start enforcing these things, put in the right thing, ordinances. But we'll go back to Pickens or Anderson County.
Cause there's a corporation buying these houses, right, like Frat Life USA, something
Greek
like
Life.
that. Greek Life,
Greek Life LLC, yes.
and it's just to be party houses
own
off
5.
campus. So they could legitimate buy a house in any neighborhood and have a party house.
Can I ask Mr. Hill a question? How late did the last one go?
11:15. 11:15 is when I can no longer hear the music on April 4th.
Okay, thank you.
I'm 1.4 miles away.
Do we not regulate any type of, I don't even know if we have anything in the county, like nightclub, anything, is there anything on the books for anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of.
I was just saying with sexually oriented businesses, they have a special call out. And it's not dissimilar, I mean, there are secondary effects that allow you to call out those types of enterprises differently. That's the classification, so it's not an equal protection problem so much. And there's secondary effects, obviously, with the stereotypical fraternity party you hear about with underage drinking, drugs, violence, and things like this, so yeah.
So with that, can you look into if,
Sure.
you know,
I'd like to ask you also if you could look in, I don't know if it's legal or not, look into seeing if we can impose to where they would have to have a license to operate as a frat house in Oconee County.
Talking about a county business
County
license,
business license to operate,
but just for,
just for frat houses.
that one might be a problem, but I will look at that with the overall issue. Yes, sir.
That way we'd at least know how many there were in the county. It'd be accountable.
do we have another committee meeting on the 20th, or is that the only one?
Transportation.
Mr. Hart's committed transportation. And unless we have a road acceptance for Mr. Hart's, I don't have anything as of right now, do you?
No, ma'am.
Might need to look
It's
for it.
possible we could go over.
Yeah, it could be a waste of time.
I'll reach out to Mr. Reed if you wouldn't mind, just to verify since he's not here.
Okay.
I'd hate for him to have an agenda item and we dismiss it without knowing.
So we got action items here, possibly look at strengthening the registration process.
The registration process, I'll have to make sure Captain Dixon and Sheriff Crenshaw are be available. I know Sheriff Crenshaw typically comes to your law enforcement committee meetings. But Captain Dixon, from my understanding, brought the registration formulation from, because he worked for City of Clemson Police Department. He brought that here simply because if there was something terrible happened at one of the frat parties, also would have someone within their right mind who could relay information and/or help identify other party goers.
Well, not to single them out, but what if, say, this group of folks here want to get together and have a party? Is there some sort of permit that has to have for that, that you would have to have for that, other than abiding by the noise
We
ordinance?
typically get 3 to 5 noise ordinance permits annually. They're for music festivals, birthday parties, we get them. But if they don't get a noise ordinance permit from me, I have no idea that they're having a party. I'm not invited anymore.
What happens when you get older?
Sir? I know. It didn't hurt quite as bad as y'all think.
Was there,
I didn't say nothing.
You hear and go, so therefore the music's gotta be louder.
while we're researching and doing that and government moves slow, we need to enforce the ordinances on the book. That's the first step.
I happen to be meeting with the sheriff's office and staff members tomorrow on another subject matter, and I'll make myself a note for us to have at least a cursory discussion.
Well, if we go out, rate it, underage drinking, it'll make the newspaper, it'll get Clemson University's attention, and they'll have to do something about it. They'll suspend the fraternity.
Because they've done that before.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Tell you a little story.
Fraternities is currently on suspension with Clemson University, but because this is not in county or on campus, that's how they're getting around it.
So in the 1980s, there was an unfortunate accident at the frat house on campus, the frat rose. The settlement with the family of the unfortunate accident person sued Clemson University. The settlement was there'll never be allowed alcohol on any living premises on Clemson University ever again. Which is why all the frats moved out of the frat houses down in Clemson, the campus, and moved out. Just quick story.
Okay.
Who would be Dean Poole's contact here? She's wanting to talk to someone here.
Just call me.
Okay.
If you got a pen, I'll give you my number, okay?
Mr. Hill, you also have my email. I'm happy to be in contact as well. Mr. Durham has sometimes shifting schedule.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's proactive police too. Stuff like that causes problems, and if you proactively own the noise ordinance, you don't have so many resources later, the way I look at it. Any other comments? Miss, is it London? Landon? Okay, so the library, that's been posted for a few years, correct? Was it in the salary study?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's the minimum qualifications for it?
Ooh, that's on the spot, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Master's degree in library science, and they're going to change it, coming up to a master's degree in education to try and get somebody in.
Okay.
I can't verify that. I will say this, though, the library, all staff at the library was included recently in October 2023. We concluded in September of 2024, staffing study encompassing equitable pay across.
The Evergreens.
Yes, ma'am. It was the Evergreen study. And our librarians, other than temporary and/or part-time, have been brought up to in line. Now, it may mean they're on the lower end of a scale, but we're in line. They also base it on population, so it's hard for us to compare to Greenville or Anderson. So a lot of the counties we were comparative to may not be in our specific region, but may be in our economic region and/or population region.
We might want to look at how we're advertising. I mean, are we just posting on the county website? Do we go out to where these?
No, so we use 3 different platforms, and we've recently been posting positions on Facebook. Indeed is one of our target platforms.
Do we have anybody apply?
I can answer that, sir.
Okay.
I don't review applications for libraries.
All right.
I can get that number for you, but I can't provide an answer. We may have had 10, we may have had 200, I'm not sure. We just hate to give you an inaccurate answer.
So, kind of go to Kim Alexander. Miss Alexander, is she still here? I don't know. mean, obviously, we have some positions in the county that goes unfilled, and that's 550 some odd positions. I don't know if there's any others, but we can certainly look and see if there's more pressing need. And I know there's a pressing need at the soil and water, and I've talked with the commissioners or board members, so we can look and see. I don't know. And then, Mr. Grant, I'll have to read this Ethics Commission report. I will say this, having been involved in this stuff now for a little over 4 years, there's a lot of things that get said and it gets taken as gospel and ran with, that when you actually start asking questions, that's not exactly what it was. So I'd advise anybody, don't take anything at face value. Make sure you validate any assumptions or statements made. Anybody else? All right, moving on now to public hearings. All right, first we have 3 public hearings. We have public hearing for ordinance 2025-08, and ordinance amending chapter 38 of the Oconee County Code of Ordinances in certain limited regards, particulars only with respect to allowing retaining walls and their appurtenances, I can't say it, I'm sorry, to be located in lot setback areas and other matters related thereto. No speakers. I close public hearing ordinance 2025-08. Ordinance 2025-09, an ordinance to rezone parcels 111-24-01-001 and 111-24-01-010, such that they will lie completely within the community commercial district pursuant to Oconee County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 38, Article 8.
We have no speakers.
Speakers? Okay, next we have ordinance 2025-10, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a real property sublease agreement between the West Union Volunteer Fire Department as subleaser and Oconee County, South Carolina as subleasee, with the approval of consent of the town of West Union and Torrington Road LLC as leaseors for certain real property located within the town of West Union, adjacent to West Railroad Street, Neville Street, and SC Highway 11, and other matters related thereto.
We have no speakers.
No speakers? All right, close public hearing, ordinance 2025-10. All right, now we're gonna move to third reading of all those ordinance. Ordinance 2025-08. I'm not gonna attempt to read it again. It's on your screen. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Now we have ordinance 2025-09, previously read, it's on your screen. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? No. Now we have ordinance 2025-10 on your screen. Have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, second, Mr. Hart. Any discussion? None, all in favor? Now we have no second readings. So we move on to first reading on the following ordinances. This is ordinance 2025-01, an ordinance to establish the budget for Oconee County, provide for the levy of taxes for ordinary county purposes, for the Tri-County Technical College Special Revenue Fund, for the Emergency Services Protection Special Revenue Fund, for the Road Maintenance Special Revenue Fund, for the Victim Services Special Revenue Fund, for the State Accommodations Tax Special Revenue Fund, for the Local Accommodations Tax Special Revenue Fund, for the Community Health and Community Services Special Revenue Fund, for the Economic Development Capital Project Fund, for the Bridge and Culvert Capital Projects Fund, for the Capital Vehicle Equipment Fund. Did I skip bridges? Let's see, I think I did. For the Bridge and Culvert Capital Project Fund, for the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Capital Project Fund, for the Fire Emergency Services capital vehicle and equipment fund, for the general one-time capital fund, for the debt services fund, all in Oconee County for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Vote is 5-0.
Next, we have ordinance 2025-02, an ordinance to establish the budget for the school district of Oconee County, to provide for the levy of taxes for the operations of the school district of Oconee County for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? So we've discussed this at some length, and the biggest reservations I have is, we'll kind of go back a little history lesson. So last year, you recall, we had a budget presented to us, and when we came time to approve the millage, we realized that that millage, to cover that budget, the way the ordinance was written was to establish a millage sufficient to cover the budget, that it would require a 1.4 mil tax increase, which we never discussed in any of our three readings. And reached out to former chairwoman at the time of the school board, Ms. McCormick, asked her to please place it on their agenda to discuss before we had to set the millage, and Ms. McCormick declined that request. And as a council, we didn't want to pass a tax increase on to the citizens that had been advertised or vetted. So we adjusted our millage, our county operational millage, by 1.4 mils to absorb that tax increase so the citizens didn't see an increase on their bill. The school district is in great financial shape. In the previous 3 years, per their presentation, they've collected $28 million in over revenue over what they budgeted for. The fund balance is currently at $37 million, which is 27.5%. The policy is 20%. You know, I have a 20% policy because you want a fund balance to cover payroll and things when you get further out in the year away from the taxes being collected, but 27% is well over that policy. If you look at the budget books, which we didn't have till Tuesday, look at the budget books, their fund balance is projected to grow another $2.75 million this year. And now to fund the requested budget will require a 4.9 mil tax increase, which is on top of the 1.4 mils we passed on to them last year. I stated in previous meetings that I would like to reclaim that 1.4 mils because we've got important work to do. I don't believe citizens should be taxed to grow a savings account. You know, we're not in the banking industry, we're in the service industry. And, you know, one suggestion is I would like to see, you know, if they work with us, they'll maintain their millage at 110 and adjust their debt by $1 million. That would be one solution. Use the large reserve fund to fund that capital needs for a year, and that 1.4 mils could come back to county operations as a 1-for-1. You know, it's equal in value and tax basis pay is the tax bill is flat. But with all that said, I'd like to propose an amendment to ordinance 2025, and on section 2, it starts off a tax of sufficient millage, and I'd like to add not to exceed 108.6 mils, and then continue on with the ordinance as written. And I would like to make a motion to do that, to amend that ordinance at this time, and for council representatives to continue discussions with the school district to make sure that we finish out this process fairly.
I'll second.
Have a second? Any further discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Vote is 5-0.
So now we're back to the main motion. Is there any further discussion on the school district budget? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the amended version of ordinance 2025-02? All in favor?
Aye.
Vote is 5-0.
Now, we move on to ordinance 2025-03, an ordinance to provide for the levy of taxes for the Kiwi Fire Special Tax District and to establish the budget for the Kiwi Fire Special Tax District for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second. Motion, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
That is 5-0.
All right, now ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance to provide for the levy of taxes for the Cornish Shiloh Special Purpose Tax District for the fire protection and to establish the budget for the Cornish Shiloh Special Purpose Tax District for the fire protection for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not hearing none. All in favor?
That is 5-0.
Next, we have ordinance 2025-11, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a real property lease agreement between the between the South Union Volunteer Fire Department as leaser and Oconee County, South Carolina as leasee for certain improved real property located at 111 Fire Station Road, Westminster, South Carolina, currently identified by tax map number 324-00-04-031 and other matters related thereto.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right, we have no resolutions. We had nothing removed from the consent agenda. All right, we have, looks like one discussion item. This will be council consideration and approval of the donation of a 2003 quality fire apparatus and a 2005 Eagle Air breathing air compressor to the city of Walhalla and approval of an agreement to allow the 2003, what is that, Sutphen?
Yes.
Sutphen 70-foot platform apparatus to remain in service in the city of Walhalla for 5 years. It is staff's recommendation that Council 1 approve the donation of a 2003 quality fire apparatus engine 5A and a 2005 Eagle Air breathing air compressor to the city of Walhalla Fire Department. 2, to approve the agreement to permit the city to continue using county-owned 2003 Sutphen 70-foot platform fire apparatus for a period of 5 years, starting July 1, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
That is 5-0.
Council committee reports, budget, finance, and administration. That's me, I have 2. Do I have a cheat sheet anywhere? There's
You only have one that you.
April 29th.
Yes, sir, that's the one.
So April 29th, we had a discussion on the school district of Oconee County's budget and review. And then we had, is this the special meeting? Yeah. Then we had fiscal year 2025-26 budget discussion and review. And I believe for, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, for April 15th, it was pretty much the same. They provided a presentation to the school district, we had a discussion, and then we kicked off the review of our budget. All right, and then now, board and commission appointments, we still have 2 at-large seats for Building Codes Appeal Board, no questionnaires on file. Anybody would like to apply, please put in. All right, executive session, we have none, need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
All in favor?